an overwhelming disarray of shelves which no more than 1 day ago represented an orderly arrangement of books lined up and attentive like toy soldiers dressed for battle, now had the appearance of something that represented the aftermath of D-Day. The small portion of the humanities stacks previously were not just tidied, but perfectly aligned according to their call number classification, but also queued ever so meticulously streamlined at the front edge of each shelf. In order, in place, in line. Where there was beauty, calm, and assuredness of things where they should be, was no more. Carelessly tossed volumes stacked like Stonehenge, if stacked at all, were haphazardly thrown into heaps onto any horizontal surface, be it a shelf, nearby table, or the floor. Forget about the neatly and considerately please return books here book trucks in the multitudes for college patrons, to place those items briefly pulled from shelves for a look-see. Those dishearteningly remained empty. I pick up the narrative life of Frederick Douglass from its broken spine position on the floor and begin to reassemble the humanities stacks with surgical precision. One disregarded book, shelf, and row at a time, restoring order and calm.
Listen, bitch. I'll see who I want when I want. Jesus, you're like a goddamn leech.
He stands up so abruptly that his chair crashes to the tiled floor behind him, causing all studying on the Cornwell Library's second floor to turn and watch the mini-drama unfold.
Brad, no, please don't.
She's pretty and a frequent patron who steadily checks out the classics, so she is most likely intelligent. Too good for the likes of a cliched fullback who excels in college courses like Rocks for Jocks. As he leaves her crying at the table, he walks towards me, but I'm so insignificant that he doesn't notice I'm shelving books in the stacks. This fact is apparent as he shoves the book truck from which I am working out of his way and directly into my hip, which causes me to displace the properly ordered 796 Sports and Leisure Studies I had just tidied. There is no apology for this act, as once again, I am really a non-being in his eyes. The poor girl's a wreck as she sobs, head down, and I suddenly feel empathy for her as I glance around at the gawkers and think, get back to your books, slack-ass posers. But all they can do is snicker and whisper about the scene. They're not here to study. This is the social studies floor. I give a disapproving look rather than confront their insensitivity, and in return, I overhear a, "Get a life, librarian." It shows what they know. I had 2 more years and a proven dissertation on Geoffrey Chaucer before receiving my PhD in library science. Although Chaucer was not a librarian, he is worthy of a doctoral study in my area of study. Shakespeare is the only person in the history of the world to have his own Dewey Decimal Number, 822.33. Melville Dewey, I feel, mistakenly credited the author due to his significant and unmatched contributions to the study of world literature. Total bullshit. Chaucer wrote more prolific works with greater insight and far better comedic and dramatic delivery over 2 centuries before Shakespeare, yet he remains unacknowledged in the DDC world. Also, the authenticity of Shakespeare's works has been under scrutiny for centuries, so it begs the question, how can someone so suspect become worthy of immortalizing his name in a universally spoken nomenclature, such as the Dewey Decimal System? I ask you, my dissertation was to prove Chaucer worthy of his own DDN, something in the 820s, medieval literature. But I digress. I shift my focus back to the slack-ass posers. As I dare to think, but never say out loud, wouldn't your time be better spent at a crack house or maybe on Sorority Row? Again, I imagine hissing at the in-crowd and only squinting at them over the rims of my glasses. That last look pissed off at least 2 tables to the point of leaving. That's me, silent, but off-putting. Out of my usual persona, I walk over to see if the recently rejected co-ed needs something. You okay? But she keeps her head turned away from me, so I figure she doesn't hear me. I lightly tap her on the shoulder to get her attention, and I get her attention tenfold.
Get your fucking hands off of me, you dyke.
And tears off down the opposite stacks. This outrage, of course, causes more rubberneckers to turn my way. Dyke? That was a first. I've never been mistaken for a lesbian before. although looking at my current attire, I could see where she was coming from. Retro Chuck Taylors, white athletic socks, Wranglers, and an androgynous jacket. I have always worn my hair short, and my height and broad shoulders have always made me appear and feel more masculine. So I guess all those elements factor into the whole lesbian equation. I have been mistaken for a man 3 separate times in my life, but never a lesbian. Once, when I was 16, I worked as a waitress at the breakfast barn, where I was forced to wear a brown polyester knee-length dress with an orange apron. I was passing a table, and an elderly lady called me over.
"Sonny, could I please have some more butter?"
When I turned towards her and she saw my bust, she quickly corrected herself.
"Oh, I guess you're not the busboy, are you? Can I get some butter anyway?"
She got her butter and a little extra personal seasoning. The next time was just a couple of years ago when I was a graduate student, sitting at a table outside of a coffee shop, wearing a t-shirt, shorts, running shoes, and a ranger's hat, when I heard a couple walking towards me with a map discussing where they were in the downtown area.
Maybe we can ask this guy.
As I was the only person within a 10-yard radius of them, they, of course, were talking about asking me for directions.
Just keep walking.
Just as well they didn't ask me, as I would have given them directions to the neglected part of the city where they most likely would have been mugged, robbed, raped, or what have you. The last time this happened was just last summer, when I was flying home from my grandmother's funeral in Florida, wearing overalls and a hooded sweatshirt over them. The security scanner beeped at me as I passed through, so I had to be hand-scanned by an elderly gentleman who said,
"Okay, son, you're going to have to take off your sweatshirt."
So, to point out his humiliating error, I stuck my thumbs under the buckles, cupped my breasts with the rest of my fingers, and queried, "Do you think these might be the problem, sir?" I was sure to give my boobs as much push as possible in his face. His face turned red, and he excused me without even wanding me.
"Oh, I think you're okay, dearie. Go on through the line, darling."
Like those terms of endearment could ever make up for confusing my gender. So there you have it. 3 times mistaken for a man, 1 time mistaken for a lesbian, and not once ever mistaken for being my usual low-to-no self-esteemed persona. No one, that is, except for my Grandma Nina, or Greena, who raised my little brother and me since we were little kids. Do not recollect Dad at all, and Mom just bolted one day. So we were a disjointed, although surprisingly non-dysfunctional, non-traditional family of 3. Greena brought us up differently than her daughter in the hope that she might get it right this time. I think she did a smashing job. She enrolled Marcus and me in St. Patrick's Catholic School to ensure we wouldn't have to enroll with the degenerate scum of the city schools, and that we would receive the teachings of Jesus. I know she meant well.